All this hot air rhetoric being thrown around in this election and name calling and all doesn't amount to a hill of beans. A lot of what people are feeling now is just pure frustration because the ground keeps moving under us. Everything keeps changing. It's hard to know where you can plant your feet.
Sorry, Mr. President. I think tomorrow amounts to a hill of beans.
We'll cut through that hot air and plant our feet right now. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm David Challey.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And follow us all day long via Twitter. It's twitter.com/The Note. You'll know where to find us.
The drum beat, sir. Get us started. What's your top line? 4
top lines and four big races. Is it a coincidence?
Right.
Yeah, it actually is. Specter's Specter, the marquee matchup tomorrow, features Senator Arlen Specter in a Democratic primary matchup against Representative Joe Sestak. And this is, of course, where Arlen Specter tried to get away from the voter anger by getting out of the Republican Party. He's found plenty of it now in the Democratic Party. This is as close as they come. But it is telling, I think, in these final days, President Obama and Vice President Biden are both going to be very, very close. And in fact, Vice President will be in the state of Pennsylvania tonight. Neither of them, though, having any kind of campaign event for him in the closing hours.
Though we should say both have appeared on radio and television, or their presence has, their words have, in ads for Specter. But you're right, they are clearly not going all in, as it were. Taking the House, yes. If Republicans want to become the majority party in November of 2010, it is districts like the 12th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, where the late Jack Murtha served for decades, that they need to win. And this special election tomorrow is key. If Republicans win this, it really is yet that another sign, right, that 2010 really may be as bad, Rick, as some Democrats fear. If the Republicans fail to convert, they're third in inches here, and if they fail to convert this race to a victory, I think it's going to cause a lot of questioning about the Republican strategy this year if just sort of saying Obama-Pelosi is sufficient in this environment.
Particularly when you consider that in a special election you can put all the resources in a way that isn't possible with the large playing map in the fall. This is going to, you're right, it's going to prompt a re-examination if they don't do it. Bluegrass battle. It's the Tea Partiers versus the Republican establishment in Kentucky, and it isn't looking good for Mitch McConnell and his fellow establishment Republicans. It's looking very good, however, for Rand Paul, of course, son of Ron Paul, set to become a mega star in Kentucky and beyond if he pulls off this primary win. It will probably be the biggest win for the Tea Party so far when you consider who he was up against. Total,
unabashed victory for them. We expect. It's funny, the Democratic race gets no attention whatsoever, and it is razor thin and very competitive between Jack Conway and Dan Mangiardo. The Union label, yes, in Arkansas, the fourth and final key race of the day, that Senate race between incumbent Blanche Lincoln and the challenger from her left, Lieutenant Governor Bill Halter. $5 million, $6 million from national labor unions into Bill Halter's campaign, and they may come up short, and they might have some egg on their face. Now, they will like to say, listen, we showed these moderate Democrats that we can make their lives miserable. But if they don't come up with the win here or at the end of the runoff, is that money well spent?
It's hard to argue that it is. That's a lot of money to dump in there. Maybe it gives Democrats pause when they go against labor in the future. But if you can't show that you can pull something off like this, then it does. Then your whole strategy gets called into question very fast.
We begin with the huge headlining race of the day. That's up in Pennsylvania, that battle between Arlen Specter and Joe Sestak. We are joined by one of Arlen Specter's biggest supporters. He's the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Ed Rendell. Thank you very much, Governor, for being here. I want to begin, if I may. Are you disappointed that Obama and Biden have not really come all out in the end here? Is that a signal to Democrats in Pennsylvania that, you know what, either one of these guys are going to be okay come November?
No, I think that's just inside baseball, guys. President Obama's ad for Arlen Specter is probably on TV about 20 times a day in almost every market in the state. That's far more effective than one quick appearance. He's doing robocalls into Philadelphia and most of the southeast Pennsylvania. Vice President Biden's doing robocalls into the northeast, where he's enormously popular. He was in for Senator Specter about 10 days ago. So, no, I think they've made their position abundantly clear, and it's one thing I remind voters of, this business about Arlen Specter switched parties to save his job. Hey, myself, the governor, the mayor of Philadelphia, Mike Nutter, Vice President Biden, and the President of the United States have been after Arlen to switch parties for a couple of years, in my case, almost for a decade. So Arlen didn't switch to save his job. He switched, in fact, because he made a courageous vote on the stimulus, which saved the president's stimulus program, and I think saved the country from an even worse economic collapse. And it was a courageous vote, and that's why he switched, because the Republican Party had no time for him anymore.
Now, the White House and a lot of its allies are saying that Arlen Specter will be a stronger ally of President Obama. Do you agree with that, or is there something that we don't know about Joe Sestak that gives you pause about whether he would support the Obama agenda wholeheartedly?
No, I think both Senator Specter and Congressman Sestak would support the Obama agenda wholeheartedly. I don't think there's any difference there. I think in the end, in November, Arlen Specter is a much stronger candidate because there are literally hundreds of thousands of moderate progressive Republicans in southeast Pennsylvania, particularly in the Philadelphia suburbs, who've been used to voting for Arlen Specter for 30 years and who I think are not going to abandon him in the general election, particularly against an extreme right-wing candidate like Congressman Toomey.
And those voters, of course, are always key for a Democrat statewide in Pennsylvania.
Sure. I'm sitting here because those voters supported me.
Exactly. Governor, I'm curious to get your take, though, on Sestak during this campaign. You're a close observer of this. What have you seen from him that has caused you to think maybe he would be a strong opponent in November? Did he prove himself some way during this primary campaign that surprised you?
Not so much, but he made one terrific decision. He hired the campaign group as his media consultants, which happened to be my media consultants for every election I run in. But more importantly, they did an incredible job. If Doc Schweitzer and Neil Oxman were in Washington, D.C., they'd be the #1 Democratic group in the country. Their last ad, the ad about President Bush with Arlen Specter, was an incredible ad. I think it was actually a disingenuous ad, to be honest. I would never let them have run an ad like that for me, but it was a disingenuous ad, but it was enormously effective. And it was countered somewhat by Senator Specter's ad with the president, which was a good ad, particularly when the president ends the ad by saying, "I love Arlen Specter." But it was serve, return of serve, and it was tough, and Joe made a very good call in hiring them, and he's listened to them, and to that extent, he's been a good candidate.
Governor, you've watched Senator Specter for a long time in Pennsylvania, and about a year ago, you were quoted one place as saying you couldn't even beat Arlen Specter because he was so popular. What has happened that all of a sudden he is so vulnerable right now in this primary?
I think the anti-incumbency, and he's been a 30-year incumbent, and so he's the lightning rod for the anti-incumbency feeling that's out there. Look, if you had told me in January that Senator Bennett would not even be able to get on the ballot in Utah, I thought Senator Bennett was a conservative institution. This anti-incumbency feeling is out there against both Republicans and Democrats, and Senator Specter, because he switched, has a little bit of it coming from both ways. But I remind people, Arlen Specter never governed Republican or Democrat. When I was mayor of Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, Arlen Specter never cracked 30% of the vote. Yet every time I called, he didn't say, "Oh, Philadelphia's a Democratic city, I'm not going to help them." He helped us, and helped us big time. He delivers, whether it's a Republican area, Democratic area, it doesn't matter who is asking him. He's been one of the most effective senators, I think, in the history of the United States Senate. Why would we change?
Can I turn your attention briefly to that House special election going on in the Johnstown area out in the western part of your state? This is to replace Jack Murtha. It is a dead heat of a contest, but this is the only congressional district, right, that changed from supporting John Kerry in 2004 to supporting John McCain in 2008, the only one in the country. So it is that sort of white, blue-collar kind of place that we think this cycle is rebelling against the Obama-Pelosi thing. What is your read on what's going on in that district, and might you guys pull this out?
I think Mark Kritz is going to win, and in great part because Mark Kritz turned out to be a very good candidate. You know, candidates matter. The national media fell hook, line, and sinker for this Tea Party business in Massachusetts. Tea Party didn't have anything to do with Scott Brown winning. Scott Brown had everything to do with him winning, and Martha Coakley had an assist in that too. And that's why I think Mark Kritz is going to prevail. Our polls have him up by a significant percentage points. I think he's going to prevail because he turned out to be a very fine candidate, and Mark deserves all the credit himself. Candidates matter. There's no question about that.
Very, very briefly, Governor, would it make a difference if President Obama were to stop by on election eve for Arlen Specter?
it might jack up turnout, so it might affect 1% of the overall vote. But probably not. People know where the president stands. I mean, guys, you have to be here and watch TV. I love Barack Obama, but I'm sick and tired of seeing him on TV.
Governor Ed Rendell, thank you very much for being here today, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Governor. Enjoy the day tomorrow. Big day in politics.